So, good afternoon. It's happy Thursday afternoon. Welcome to the showcase. Today's showcase will be presented by Radek Belt from CESNet with some help from some colleagues, and who will give us an overview of PowMon. If you're wondering why there's a picture of a phone in the webcam, all will become clear in the next few minutes. So I'll hand over to Radek.
Thank you, Jim. So this is Radek from CESNet, and welcome to the presentation of power monitoring and power management software called PowMon. The software was created in CESNet, our association, with an international project, GÉANTK+, where the greening activity is focused on various environmental aspects of network organization performance. So let's move to slide 2. There is introduction that our association is a large national research and educational network organization, and we are responsible for operating network infrastructure and also we provide various services. It's good to say that environmental issue has not been solved separately and independently before we started to participate in GÉANTK+ project. We find it very interesting as any savings have become essential, especially recently, and not only from environmental point of view. So to introduce and to describe briefly how we got into this issue, it's good to say that CESNet's internal structure is not that simple, and there are many responsibilities for the infrastructure we are running. So it's not that easy to push something innovative through, but on the other hand, there are also some positives with this situation. So that's why we decided to focus on something that makes savings, and not only environmental but economic as well. So also very important thing is that no extra costs are needed, which makes sense then, because when the extra costs to save some energy are necessary, then the final solution is not that efficient. We call that savings for free, which means it is very important to consider the extra effort needed to reach some savings, and when the extra energy is very low, then even small savings might be very efficient. So we decided to focus on devices which are powered over Ethernet, so called PoE, and these devices do not have any large consumption generally, but the problem is they are powered generally 24/7, which means they are powered also at the time when it is not needed actually. There is a typical example, IP office telephone, which means that that's a device which is actually powered also at the moment when it is not needed, because it's just placed on the table in the office, which is locked and closed, and so the telephone is actually cannot be utilized at the moment. And we were thinking, how long are these periods when these IP devices are not utilized? So, and why are they powered then? And we counted that the average utilization of a typical IP office telephone is only 27.5%, and then the space for savings is very large. So another thing is that there are also office wireless access points which are also not utilized, for example at nights and weekends and so on in some organizations. And altogether means there is a large space for savings. So let's move to another slide. And there we would like to say something about standby mode, which is actually mode where some devices are powered but not used. They're actually waiting for the usage, and it means that this energy that is consumed at this standby mode is actually totally wasted. And that's why European Commission started some limitation some time ago, and the limitation was about the maximum consumption at the time when they are not utilized. And in 2010 it was about 1 watt, and then later even half watt. And there is a list of devices which are covered by the regulation, and IP devices are not on the list. They are somehow outside, but we considered them in standby mode as well, because they're actually waiting for the usage and just consuming energy which is wasted. And that's why we started to think about how to decrease this wasted energy, and by simple software solution. So we were thinking not about limitation of that standby wasted energy, but about reduction to zero, actually, which means turning them off or powering them off at the time they are not, or they cannot be utilized. So that's why we developed software called PowMon, which means power monitoring. And this is a simple software solution how to turn the IP devices off when they are not utilized, and how to save the energy when they are actually in standby mode. It is open source software that is easily adaptable to real environment in any organization, and that's different to other commercial products that are available, but they always support only their own brand mark. So now there are some general sample cases. So imagine the situation: there is an IP phone, and it is a typical device that is powered by Ethernet. And imagine the situation: it is automatically turned off by the system, by the software, during the time when it cannot be used. It means nights in the office, for example, or weekends or vacations. And it can be also combined with other electronic systems like alarms and presentation or presence systems. When the user comes to their office, they don't see actually the telephone doesn't work, because the alarm priority sets via PowMon the telephone on, and it's usable without any limitations. It seems the savings are very small of one IP phone, but actually in large organizations there are many and many of them. So if you count that all together, the savings are definitely not negligible. So there is another particular sample case, which is a university. So it's a normal average university with about 2,000 IP phones. And if they are all scheduled by power monitoring software, together with scheduling the Wi-Fi APs in such university, there might be about 200 of them. And if you count that all together, it can make savings at least about 80 megawatt hours per year, which is definitely countable. And we always considered only minimalistic and realistic scenario when turning off these devices would be really at the time when nobody needs them. So if you want to recount that savings according to the price of energy in your country, this formula might help you. And let's go on. And now we are coming to PowMon software. So the simple description is: it's a user-friendly device manager that enables environmental and other savings. So also the logotype actually shows everything is connected with the power button, and nature. So before we come to a live demo, there is a simple description with some screenshots, and there you can see the environment of the software is really user-friendly, and it actually controls, or it enables controlling of many devices. And when you want to control or operate or manage the device by PowMon, you have to set
Radek, we've lost your audio, or at least I have. Do you want to just try setting and resetting your microphone?
Okay, so I hope you can hear me. We are back. Thank you. And as when you set the new device, actually the PowMon later checks the ports and finds it automatically. Finds the objects automatically. So the first thing is to set the new device, and the other thing is, that's step number 2, that all the devices and objects must be operated and controlled in groups. So it very simplifies the controlling more IP phones together, because you can set and adjust the rules for all the groups. So there is step 2 to make the groups, and we can move to step 3, where you can see the ports or objects, where you can see actually if the PowMon has found the object and has found if the object is powered or not. That's why there are the icons. If it's green, it means it's powered. When it's red, it's not powered. And so everything is again very simple, and it's possible to edit that and check it. And there is another very important step to create a schedule. So there's a scheduler where you can actually set the rules which are dedicated to each group, and there you can actually set the minute and hour and time schedule when they should be powered off and powered on, and there is a priority of every rule. The higher number means higher priority. That's very important, because when there is a conflict of the rules, the higher priority rule has the higher priority. So you can easily set, for example, that the weekends they have higher priority, so the telephones are not turned on in the morning as the other days. Or it can be easily combined with other electronic input, like for example security alarm, which means when the office has the alarm deactivated, which means there is a person inside, the IP telephone is always on, and when the alarm is activated, so nobody inside, the IP phone can be always off. When the IP phone is off, it means there can be a voice recorder which is actually placed in somewhere else, and the call is then redirected to the voice recorder somewhere else, so the caller doesn't need to wait for the ringing and so on. Yeah, and one more slide about the loads, which is quite important, because there you can see the statistics of energy consumption of such IP objects and ports, and there is always the last measured power, minimal and average and maximum power needed. So actually from these statistics you can easily count the savings and so on. Everything will be very clear and visible in live demo, which is coming. My colleague Jan Neyman is going to show you how easy it is to manage IP phone, which we have brought here to our room. and we are now going to set this IP phone and then to turn it off and on, and hopefully we will not power off the whole testnet association because everything is really live demo. So anyway, thank you for your interest. Now I'm going to give the set to my colleague, and if there are any questions, there was a contact and so on. So we are looking forward to your interest. So goodbye.
So, good afternoon. Let me introduce myself. My name is Jan Neyman, and my job is networking and software programming. I'm working for testnet for 13 years. Over the last 2 months, I have been working on PowMon software on a part-time. As Radek said, the PowMon means the power monitoring software. Now, I will show you how the software is working in our live demonstration. It's really live. I hope everything will be okay, but you know, anything can happen. So we are prepared to testing IP phones for this case. The PowMon software will manage the powering of these phones. The software consists of 2 parts. The first one is a web interface, and the second one is a script which frequently in 1-minute intervals poll the device and set the wanted powering state for the selected object. I will show you the first part, web interface. An administrator can simply log into the web application. I type in my username, password, and I will check remember me on this computer value, which means that the session will remain active after I will close the browser. So, okay, we are now in, and we can use the system. In the top menu, the user can choose the action. For example, to see a system log, to view a power load, to set up a scheduler, and the rest of things. We will start with the devices menu. I can simply add a new device by clicking on the Add New Device link. Now I will type in a device name, an IP address, SNMP community string, okay. We need to use an SNMP with read and write access rights. If everything is okay, the system will create a list of powerable objects. The list is displayed in the ports menu. So, my phones are connected to the port 47 and 48. In the third step, I will create a port group. So, testing group. Modify. Okay. So as soon as the ports are assigned, the PowMon sets the power to the state of the port. At this moment, the phones will be switched off. It is not done immediately, but in 1 minute intervals. So before the phones change its state, I will continue to the scheduler. So I will. At this moment, we will create a scheduler plan. I want to set the power off at 8 p.m. and set the power on at 5 a.m. Also, I want to switch off IP phones on Saturdays and Sundays. In PowMon, this means to create 4 rules. As you can see, the phone is now switched off, so the testing group switch both phones to the off state. Now I change the testing group to the automatic mode, and I will create new rules for testing groups. And 8 p.m. I want to switch down power. And in 5 a.m. I want to switch up the power. And on Saturday I want to switch down. And the last so I'm setting the priority to 200 because higher value means a higher priority. If the PowMon matches a rule, it doesn't continue with the rules evaluation. So the priority is really important. That's all. A scheduling plan is ready. I will add one testing rule which will switch on the phones in the next minute. So, for example, special rule 24 and switch. So that's my scheduling plan. I hope that in 1 minute the phones will be switch up, and in the meantime we can continue to the loads menu. I can see my devices on the last 2 lines. The average power is counted during the whole day, so we can see the saving several watts. So as you can see, the phones are now switch up. So scheduling plan is working. In the system log, we can see the changes. So there is check that ports were switched down, and at 24 were switched up. We are planning to extend the software and implement the support for APC power outlets this month. That's all from my side. Any questions for me or Radek and Joseph? No? So that's all.
Thanks very much, Joseph. That was very interesting. I do have, while we're waiting for, it looks like one question. So Tripty has a question, so while we're waiting for that to come through, Tripty, I can either open your microphone or you can type it in there.
Okay.
So while we're waiting, presumably this works on the Power over Ethernet devices currently. So the software automatically polls for any devices that are Power over Ethernet, or do you have to manually tell them what the IP addresses are?
Yes, I can switch devices off manually or automatically by scheduler. Manual mode is I want to switch off all IP phones now. It's a good mode for automatic for external sources, for example for alarm, and or I can use a scheduler, and in which scheduler I can set in which time I want to switch off the phone, and on which time I want to switch on the phones.
And you mentioned, I think, that there's also possibility to include switchable power sockets on the network, which you would have direct control over. Are these commercial products that you can buy, or are they? I mean, would there be an infrastructure cost, or are we just talking about plug-in modules, sort of thing?
On the market, there is really commercial products like Cisco Energy Wise, but all these products are based only on one vendor. The PowMon uses open interface, so it's easy to implement many politics from many vendors. The PowMon implement only simple interface with several methods. The user enter only IP address of the manageable device, and the software will connect maybe with SNMP protocol. In another case, it can connect with SSH session. It's really open.
Okay, thank you. So Tripty has come through with a question. She says, in GÉANT Limited, formerly Dante, we use Microsoft Link for telephone calls. And this is connected to your Windows and MS Outlook profile, so when you log into your laptop, then you're automatically signed in. However, when one hibernates the laptop, it goes into away state on Link, which means it's still on, obviously. Is there any way to control Link directly without forcing the person to sign out? And also, as a next step, power down the laptop itself.
I don't know Link, but I think that it is possible to do this. But it depends how Link is working. If there is some interface between Link application and maybe some database, because I don't know really how Microsoft Link is working, but I think that PowMon can be compatible with Microsoft Link.
Okay, thank you. Maybe that's an area for Tripty to look into when she joins the team in the next instance. Great. Well, thanks very much for a very interesting. All right, we've got one more question from Tripty. Go for it, Tripty.
Yeah.
Thank you, Josef. That's good to know. Josef says APC remotely controlled power outlets are standard products.
APC uses SNMP also, so it's not problem to implement this.
So Tripty has asked, I would like to install this. What are the prerequisites, and also how does access control work in PowMon?
Good question. The Vue software is a simple PHP application based on Net framework. I will prepare a package for Debian distribution, so installation will be really easy. You need only install web server, MySQL database, PHP, and the installation will be in 5 minutes, maybe less. The access control. It's at this moment the PowMon implements 4 classes for access. One is administrator. Administrator is a GOT. Another class is manager. Manager cannot create new users and set access rules. Another class is operator. Operator can set a scheduling plan, and also operator cannot create users, and operator cannot see the device settings, SNMP community strings, and also. And another class is a guest. Guest only see in which state are all ports. So.
Okay, thank you. That's really interesting. And as I say, this will be put up onto YouTube, and so it will be available for public viewing. So I'll organise that in the next couple of days. And thanks again, guys, for your presentation. And with that, I'll invite anyone to come along to the next showcases and submit any showcase ideas that you have for us. We'd be very interested to hear from you.
Oh, Jim, thank you very, very much for support.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.